Good morning, good day, good afternoon. Of course, depending on where you are watching us from. We are One Africa Radio TV, and of course, we are streaming live all the way from Johannesburg, South Africa. Down there, we are there. And of course, with me, Dr. Hope Sibuyi, and this is Rope for Hope Talk Show, where we're bringing you all the news all over the world. But before we get started, don't forget to subscribe, like, and of course, hit that notification button so that every time we have a show like this, it will notify you, because yes, we will be bringing you current news, and we will be bringing you the guests to come and speak. And of course, you are welcome, everybody. Today, I am so honored, and of course, to have one of the great in the time that we are living in. And of course, we have our very own Dr. Alexandra Chisango. He is here with us today. Please call everybody to come and watch, because we're going to have a great time. Wisdom that will be flowing from God to man and to us. I tell you, it's going to be a great time. Dr. Chisango, with his family and through the church and the marketplace, Dr. Alexander Chisango has served the African continent and the socio-economical justice sector internationally as an empowerment engineer. My goodness, you really don't want to miss. You really don't want. Grab your coffee, because we are going to have such a great time. Dr. Chisango, he was divinely deployed to prepare the godly restructuring ahead of the current worldwide crisis and collapse. All right, I will really stop right there, because that just got my attention. Dr. Chisango, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We really appreciate it, and you are welcome, sir.
Well, compliments of the year 2023, hoping that it will be a new year.
A new year.
Not just a new year, but a completely new year.
A complete new year.
Yeah.
I know you're so much into talking about a new thing, and you are talking about a new earth. I cannot wait to hear what are you talking about, because I go outside and I see the same building, I see everything the same. But before we go there, please tell us, who is Dr. Chisango?
Well, ultimately, as of 2023,
yes,
I just love to be a servant that is just ministering life and wisdom and also hope to nations across the board, because the greatest asset that you can bring to people today is hope. There is so much hopelessness and so much disintegration, suicides. Look at the rate of drug and substance abuse and addictions. Why? Because wisdom says where there is no vision, people perish. So because when people don't see the future and they don't see their place in the future, they begin to perish. So the whole subject of just bringing assurance, and that assurance cannot be also cosmetic. It has to be substantive. So that is why all the rest of my life I'm devoted to seeing reconstruction, because we deserve and we need as urgently as possible to see a new earth and a new dispensation.
Doc, you're talking about reconstruction and talking about the new earth. And I know that you are involved in the World Economic Congress. Reconstruction, how? You know, you speak like that man who said, how can I be born again? And you said, must I go back to my mother's womb and be... When you talk reconstruction, what are you talking about? Because purely, I believe that we are in the time where everybody, it's everywhere looking for help, looking for,
Yes.
you know. So you're talking of reconstruction. Please tell us, what are you talking about?
Before the advent of COVID,
Yes, sir.
by the providence of God, you know, I was taken all over Africa and all over the world, many of the continents and significant places there. So back then, I thought I was speaking in conferences
Okay.
and being hosted on various platforms, academic platforms, conference platforms, and sometimes platforms of council.
Yes.
I was hosted by a few heads of countries, governments, and I also hosted a few
Okay.
in the course and in the process. And having done all, it then occurred to me that the time then came to look back and evaluate with the help of God. And then I realized that it was not just travels, it was not just events, but it was a systematic surveillance to see how wrong things were going
Okay.
and to see how misdirected things were going and to foresee the imminent collapse and the imminent disintegration that was coming. So that gives you the background of World Economic Congress. Because out of the many events and the networks and relationships that had developed over the years, the Spirit of the Lord stirred me up
Okay.
to realize that this was actually a preparation to build relationships that would, when they are networked together into a World Economic Congress, we can then build a platform which could then bring about alternative thinking and alternative ways of rescuing people when the collapse eventually happens. So in other words, I would say the shutdowns, the lockdowns,
Yes, sir.
by the time they came, I had spoken about them
Okay.
for 5 years at an intensive level. Although I had foreseen them much longer than that. I had foreseen them 30 years before. But then speaking about them publicly was really 5 years. And exactly to the dot, it then came. So World Economic Congress, which I humbly serve as president over that, presiding over that, I feel an onerous responsibility when I see countries and I see people, groups, and different age groups of people groping for some kind of survival and a way out. Because indeed, to me, the current crisis is an automatic confirmation that the way that we were building was faulty and it was wrong. So we need reconstruction.
Or that's where the reconstruction now comes in.
Absolutely. And also, you see, when reconstruction, technically, it's not the same as just rebuilding. It's also not the same as just restoration. Because you see, when this building that we are sitting in, I think we are in the third or fifth floor
Yeah.
of this building.
Third floor, yeah.
Now, when it goes wrong, when it cracks or if it collapses, we have two options, depending on the authenticity of our wisdom. One option is just to wake up and pick the same old plan and then build using the same material, and then just simply postpone another wave of collapse again. You see? And this is one of the ways that is already threatening to go wrong, even when we have come out of COVID and the crisis that has ensued with COVID. So that's one model. Another model is not even to rebuild by the same old plan. Another model is to simply go and pick the bricks that fell apart and try to patch them up,
Yeah.
and then paint the whole thing after plastering it, and then do an official reopening ceremony. That's even another more foolish model. And there are people, mind you, there are people that are actually doing that. We have seen in the past 3 years, since 2020, January effectively, to the end of last year, 2022, the last 3 years, we have seen unprecedented collapses, disintegration. Let me give you simple examples. We are sitting with fresh bad news, whereby hospital and medical authorities,
Yeah.
they are beginning to send some advance warnings now to say a worse
Yes.
and more virulent
Than COVID.
plague and pandemic. They are now calling it COVID B, X double B variant. We shall end up with no more new names now for these things.
My goodness.
Worse than the first wave, and worse than anything else that we have seen. They are saying, it's coming. And I was reading something else this morning. The young people in China, where this latest of the variants is said to be again brewing and emanating from. The young people, some of them, I was being told in this news article that the young people are actually looking for ways to voluntarily self-infect themselves, because they are saying, perhaps if we get infected and we get over it, then maybe we can then immunize ourselves that way. Now, they are no longer even listening to what the medical protocols and medical professionals are saying. They are looking for alternative ways, because they're just tired of going through the rounds and so forth. Now, this is China, which, because of its population and because of its global mobility and presence, it has got enough capacity to just distribute to the whole world within a short space of time. Now, this is just one indicator now of persistent troubles that are facing countries and people. Now, you move further up to the west. We now have a funny situation where a citizen of Britain who actually comes from a former colonial community of Britain had to become Prime Minister of Britain. The new Prime Minister, Mr. Sunak. Now, it means the British people are tired also. They are tired of all the promises that the British, with all its utopian ideals, the ideals by which Britain became a global power, And the British people were raised and schooled under those utopian ideas. Now, they are now saying, by putting an Indian guy, basically, as their prime minister, they are basically saying, our system has failed to work. And they are tired of their system, so they are looking for some alternatives. You look at the United States today. Yesterday was Friday. They went into 11 rounds of trying to elect a speaker of the US Congress and failed. Now, the factionalism is not just across the parties. Even in one party, they can't agree. So that's dysfunctionality. Now, this is supposed to be a beacon of global democracy.
So the system is basically collapsing.
It has collapsed. It has collapsed. We saw it even January 6th, that other year. And this is supposed to be, they normally operate at that level, and they branded themselves as the global beacon of democracy. So it doesn't work. So what about those that were copying America? Where do they stand now? Things are just falling apart. Then we've got our own Africa, the richest, potentially the richest country in the world in terms of natural resources and endowment.
Africa.
When we, in fact, even if we bring it to the least point, DRC, potentially the richest country in the world. It is
Potentially.
Yeah, but it is also hosting the largest number of refugees, in the world, and at the same time, the longest and unbroken war. Skirmishes happening all over the world. But there is supposed to be a civilized world out there with a system for maintaining peace and bringing peace. But peace has eluded. In fact, we are standing right now threatened by a third world war, regardless of perceived better education and improved education, which means what kind of education have we produced? What kind of people, what kind of educated people have we produced? How come we have produced people that seek to control the whole world, but they cannot control themselves?
So are you saying on that collapsed, the example that you gave, we literally taking the bricks and we are painting them and we are putting them back without looking at the whole system itself?
Painting is better. We are doing makeup.
Oh my goodness.
Painting is better because painting, if rain comes and pours on this thing after the rains are over, paint still continues to look like it's normal. But makeup behaves differently. Makeup, if just some drops of rains come,
it's gone.
You are finished. You really are finished. You have to go hiding. So this is where so many things really are not working. I will not spare anything because if we spare anything, we are just postponing the inevitable, more and more of our inevitable problems.
But you also spoke about the education system. Education system is supposed to be maybe the one that gives us that. But you also spoke about that the education system is actually failing. What are you talking about in terms of the educational system?
It's education without, number one, it's without values. It's education without values. It's education that is racing to make somebody become something else before they even understand themselves. So we are living in an education system where people don't even understand themselves first. So we are graduating spooks and ghosts, basically.
My goodness.
Yeah, basically spooks and ghosts. who really, because a spook and a ghost, that dimension of beings. These are things that that they exist, and you can see they are mysterious manifestations, but they are unproductive for economic purposes. They can't you can't build a community by them, and you can't pin them down to anything. So this is the disaster. I mean, and the thing is becoming more and more out of reach and more expensive, because it's just based on cosmetic, advertisements and things like that, but it has no substance. It really has no, and it's spilling over into every sector. It's spilling into everything that we do. So it's patching up and making up, and we don't care how durable this thing is. You come back, for example, even to the issues of faith. Look at the church. Christian faith, by statistics, it's by far the majority.
And it's supposed to bring solution.
It's over 2.7 billion people adherents, at least by the middle of 2022. That was the position. But then let's put on the table what is the substantive harvest. What is because even the founder and chief apostle of that faith said, you shall know them by their fruit.
Yes.
So let's look at the fruit in terms of what quality of people have we produced in the world out of the churches. How many leaders of cities have we produced? How many leaders of countries have we produced? What is their fruit? How many leaders in education have we produced? Right now, you are in the media space, and we're in a media outfit here. Now, there is a statement, a saying that was coined a few years ago, a statement about fake news.
Yes.
And it's official. It's official that most of the news, when you hear them, I'm not talking about just social media news and so. I'm talking about official news from official media channels and houses. How many of that is true? And even the makeup of itself, what itself is called news. Sometimes it's not entirely fake, but what is called news and what it trends as news, predominantly the brand of news, it actually means announcements of new problems and announcements of new disasters.
My goodness, this is getting so exciting. We are, what a wisdom, I want to encourage you, please do grab a cup of coffee, water, whatever. Come back and relax, because we are taking it to the next level, where he's going to tell us about this new earth that he's busy talking about. And if I can just take you back, he's talking about that we're lacking self-governance. So he's going to actually explain to us about that. But to remind you, do subscribe to us and hit that notification button. We will be right back. Don't go away. See you. Welcome back. Yes, with me in the studio, I'm still having Dr. Chisango, and with me, your host, Dr. Hope Sibuyi, and this is Rope for Hope Talk Show at One Africa Radio TV. This is really getting exciting. Please don't let anyone to disturb you, because the next one we are going to talk about, you need to be listening and focusing, because it's going to change and transform your life. Dr. Chisango, thank you again.
Welcome.
As we continue.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now let's talk about this, your something that is really in you. You talk about the new earth.
Yes.
What are you talking about when you say the new earth, Doc?
Yes, thank you. The point is that, admittedly,
Yeah.
we are coming from a failed dispensation. Yes. Where too many things have just failed. So we are now at a new door. And this door is a door of a contestation for reconstruction. Now, this contestation, the laws of nature, they don't allow for a vacuum. So this new door of reconstruction requires leadership. And leadership requires ideas. So the first and foremost issue is that let it be known, let it be announced to the whole world that the whole world now is calling for fresh thinking, and it's calling for fresh leadership. Let people not sit, be they in the communities there, be they among the youth, the women, the priests, and anybody you can talk about. Let people not take life for granted.
But Doc, sorry to come in. I'm just sitting here and I'm listening, but I'm thinking to myself, you're talking of the new door.
Yes.
Doesn't it have to be that this failed system has to accept that we have failed and to say we need to start or to move into a new door?
No, you see, the thing about systems is that systems never make themselves up. They are made by their sponsors.
Yeah.
They are made by their inventors. So the nature of the world where we are coming from, it's a world where the culture is of self-worship. It's a culture of pride and selfishness. It's a culture of domination of others by others.
Building my own empire.
Exactly. Even if the guy who is dominating is bankrupt of ideas and solutions. So we're coming from that background. So to wait for the system to admit, it's just expecting too much. So leadership has got to arise. And I'm talking here even about some unassuming places and countries that must provide leadership. I was so relieved 2 weeks ago or so when there was there are so many criticisms about the the most recent US Africa summit. But one thing that I just liked about that summit is that there was an open invitation from President Joe Biden to Africa to say, can you please help to lead the world? We are inviting you.
But do we have people who are ready? That's what is worrying me to say.
That's why we are doing this interview, to wake up. You know, when you check history, it tells you that some people who actually had the answers for entire generations, they became leaders when they were unwilling. You know, Previously, naturally, they were laid back, and I mean, even if you go into the Bible, do the same story. Look at your Moses. He was unwilling. Look at your Gideon. He was unwilling. He was hiding. Look at your Samuel. God was speaking to Samuel.
Your David.
And Samuel, what was Samuel doing? He wakes up. He goes to the failed leader.
Oh my
He
goodness.
goes to the failed leader.
Wow.
With his calling. He's going to surrender every fresh idea that God is trying to give to him. He's going to subject it to the failed system. And so, right.
Oh, that has to sink. That has to sink.
Yeah.
Fresh idea to
Yes.
the failed.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So this is why, you remember in my last discussion
Yes.
on radio the other time,
Yes.
I said, we can be sitting here thinking that someone from somewhere in some other skyscraper somewhere is going to come up with some solutions for health for humanity. But you might be surprised that there are guys in the village, somewhere in a village in Africa, where there is no university graduate located in that village. But these villagers, they know exactly how to be COVID-free.
They're thinkers.
Yeah, they have got the solutions.
They've got the solution.
Yeah, they don't have, right, they have the solutions, but they don't fit into the system. The system that has hijacked the space of medicine, health, and wellness. The system has made sure that it identifies the limited space that it knows, and then locks everybody out, and then everybody else who does not fit into the system is condemned to nothingness.
Yet they have solution.
But now, the good thing with life is that you shall always know the efficacy of anything. You'll know it by its fruit. So the fruit is telling us that this one is fake, this one is fake, this one is fake. So we now have a huge opportunity.
We need to really have a solution in all this. From what he was talking about, definitely we need to get a solution. Oh my goodness, we have to close this part of our show. But let me promise you something. We are going to have part 2 of this show, because there's such more wisdom that is going to be poured out into this. I wish we can continue, but unfortunately, time is not on our side. See you on our next episode.
One Africa Radio TV.